Well, hello and welcome once again to A Goodman's Tale. My name is Josh Goodman and I will be your host today. As always, you know A Goodman's Tale is a place where we talk about the nitty and the gritty, life's ups and downs, goods and bads, our highest moments and our most tragic moments. It's a safe place where we can just get together and talk. As always, if you enjoy these episodes, we ask that you would like, share, and subscribe today. That being said, let's get to it. Well, hello once again. We are here with Miss Meagan Abraham. I was going to say Rogers, but I did not.
I am not a Rogers.
Yep, no. As I was sitting there today considering our conversation today, I was going to delve in and just begin talking about what it is to be married to the military. Your entire marriage time has been in the military, but then I thought about your depth with the military goes much further than that.
My whole life.
Your whole life, right? Your entire life. So we'll kind of do two segments today. Let's first talk about growing up in the military and give me some of your life story. What was that like? Places you've been, lived, and some of the challenges you faced growing up. What were some of the challenges a military brat would go through?
We went from here, which is Fayetteville, to Germany when I was 5. So, like, our previous Fayetteville life, I had no recollection.
Yeah, no real memory of it.
And so,
I mean, absolutely none. You don't remember like playing in the nursery ever or anything?
I remember playing in the nursery and then like stealing pudding from over there.
The little bag, got it. Okay.
And then I think it was Hurricane Fran. I remember that. But then it was just like, it was Germany. Just Germany.
Yeah.
And so, like, I tell people, I'm like, I was born in Fayetteville, but I was raised in Germany. Like...
How old, and you were 5 when you guys moved to Germany. How long were you guys stationed there?
For 6 years.
Wow.
And between 5 and 11 is actually where your, like, personality grows.
Yep. Yeah.
So my personality grew in, Germany.
Germany, not here in Fayetteville.
Yeah. And so it's weird because, like, people will be like, oh, you're from Fayetteville? You don't have that mentality. And I was like, well, I was raised in Germany.
Yeah, right.
So,
what was it like being raised as an American in Europe or in Germany? What was that like?
Thankfully, for being such a young, like, at 5, I was able to learn the language pretty quick because, like when you're that young, you pick on it. Pick it up quicker. And so it wasn't, like, too hard, like...
Do you still speak it now?
Yes, I yell at my kids in German all the time.
Nice.
And so, I still speak it. I'm not, like, fluent in it. I can understand it better and actually read it better than I can speak it.
Yeah.
So, but
I can tell you with my experience, so being raised in Haiti, we've recently started a Haitian congregation here, and so I am in direct contact with a couple of Haitian people, and we talk almost exclusively in Creole, and just... for the past few weeks, having that kind of contact, my vocabulary has probably doubled or tripled. I'm much, just being able to speak it with them and exercising it, I'm remembering words I'd forgotten. And
once you like get out of that place and you lose it, me and my mom don't speak it. And me and my sister don't speak it, so literally you can lose it. But it was lucky because we were also on like a base compound, so you had the English speaking kids. But you also had it to where you could go to parks and stuff, and you had the German-speaking kids.
That's cool, yeah.
And our housing was actually off base. It was considered off base, and so we had the German-speaking kids. So we kind of got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's really cool. But you went to school. The schooling you went to was all in English, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was a DOD school, a DoD school. Cool. It was all in English and stuff like that. And I think it was weird because here in America, you're like, ooh, if we could just get the stuff, all the knickknacks and stuff that are overseas. But when you're overseas, everyone would talk about when you'd go back, like,
you need to the Americas.
You would go back to the Americas, and you would be like, your friends would give you lists of things that they needed and like stuff.
I need some Levi jeans and a pair of Vans tennis shoes. And
when you came back, you knew who shopped at the BX or who shopped at the United States. because they all had the same rulers at the BX. But if you went to the United States, you had amazing things.
Yep, all the better things. And so, what was? So I want to stay in Germany for just another minute. What was one of your most exciting memories that you brought home from Germany?
It would have to be. This is gonna sound crazy, but it would have to be when me, my mom, my sister, and my mammal went to the Swiss Alps.
Oh,
It was amazing, and we actually it was like a blizzard, just straight blizzard. But me and my sister went out onto the Alps, and we were standing like you couldn't breathe. It was like so hard, like it was crazy.
That's cool.
But yeah, we went out to the Alps, stood. But my mom did get a picture, but my mammal got hurt and was just like literally like bleeding a fountain. And so she threw the camera, and so the pictures didn't develop.
Oh no!
So
well, it'll be up here though. And what about any military brats out there? What was one of the most challenging parts of living in Germany? As you know,
I think not being like close to family and stuff like that. Yeah. Like you hear all about like cousins growing up with each other and. Even though we did come back in the summer and we had like cousins month at my grandmother's, it just wasn't the same with growing up and just being able to like go and hang out and stuff.
I think for me too that, we moved to Haiti when I was 9 or 10. And so up until 10 years old, we had, me and my cousins, we spent entire summers together, at my grandma's house, weekends all the time. And so when we moved away, suddenly that was gone. And that was something that definitely, it brought a huge disconnect in our relationship and our friendship. It just wasn't, after that, it's like, it just wasn't the same. We would still see them over the summertime sometimes, but it was definitely different from that time on, and I think for me, I miss not having that. Of course, I wouldn't give up my time in Haiti, but I miss what I didn't get with them, Yeah. And so you moved back, you're 11 years old, back to Fayetteville?
Yes, we moved back to Fayetteville.
Wow.
So,
what kind of culture change was that?
It was really shocking. It was weird because like we got off the plane and then we went to a restaurant and I'm looking at it and I couldn't read it. I knew English.
Yeah.
But I'm used to reading German.
Yes, yeah.
I couldn't read it. And I was like...
You're like, where's the bratwurst?
Yeah. And so it was so crazy because I was like, Mom, I don't understand. Like, it's like you had like a brain fart or something.
Yep.
And so it was honestly amazing coming back.
Yeah.
And then like figuring out a whole new life. I think that's like just one of the best things about
and
the
your
military.
Your dad was still in the military. How much longer did he stay in the military after you returned to Fayetteville?
When we came back, he was not in the military.
Really?
He could only come back if he got out.
So he got out while he was in Germany?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
I did not. Okay, cool.
He got out and then went as a contractor. I think that's where people get confused because contractors aren't.
Well, and that's where it kind of, it switches up in my brain because I'm like, I know he retired. I'm glad you told me because I didn't realize he'd retired over there. I figured, so I'm overlapping some of his contracting.
Yeah, because it's kind of like when you get out, it's like you have an overlap of you're still in, but you can still get a job on the outside. Yeah. And the military will overlap you.
And so, how long? So he's been working as a contractor for
since we got back.
Since you got back, yeah.
2004. Yeah.
He's coming up on another 20 years. So friends joining us, he spent 20 years.
21 years.
21 years, active duty veteran. And let me say, on behalf, I know these words may sound shallow, but to you and your family, most people outside Fayetteville don't understand the sacrifice, and we're going to get into that more as we talk about moving into your married life and kids and all that. But thank you to you and your family, because not only did Meagan's dad spend the 21 years in, but then now he has also put in another almost 20 years in service to the country. So that's amazing.
Yep. So
you moved back to the States. You're 11 years old. Not quite old enough to go to youth, but getting there.
I was kicked into youth because your wife was like, just bring her along, come on. Whatever.
Elizabeth's there. Bring her in. Bring her in. And so you were there literally from... the outset, that was right when Next Level was, I mean,
coming up
and reaching our heyday. So what was that like?
Oh man, I think it was like overwhelming at first, especially like you have such a close-knit community because you're the only English-speaking people over there. And then coming here and you have a full-blown like just city that you can talk to anyone if you wanted to. And so it was kind of overwhelming, and I think that's why I was kind of really shy, because I was like, well, that's a lot of people.
And we were hyped back. I mean, we were not a calm youth ministry whatsoever. We had Jess up there doing like the Crunk Junkies and loud music and rocking out, and just, we were, for somebody with your personality, it could have been a little bit overwhelming, and especially coming from Germany. You know?
It was just like, but thank you to your wife that took me under, and then I think she just shoved me towards your daughter, who was like, just come on,
let's go.
And so we were just like, we're best friends since then. So
that's cool. That's really cool. And this is going to be an interesting question for me. What was, and I know I talk a lot about exciting and challenging, but what was one of your favorite memories you can bring from Next Level?
From Next Level,
I mean, because we were beach trips and snow trips and
I have to tell a little secret that I never told anyone. We went on this one snow blast, okay? And the boys broke into the girls to throw snowballs at them because it was snowing outside. I hid in a closet. I saw them coming in, and I hid in the closet.
The boys did that sometimes back then, because I remember doing a girls' lock-in and us breaking in the side of the log building with water guns, dousing everybody down and running. I remember Chelsea, she was upset, and she chased us down, with fire in her eyes. But
it was kind of bad because no one told Tony, your son, that had happened, and then the girls kidnapped Tony.
I remember that. Taking place, Woo! That's good stuff. And back then we were doing the revival meetings and all of that. At what point does Abraham, and I say Abraham because that's what you call him, at what point does Abraham, for you, come into the picture?
I knew about him since 2004. I knew he was a person in the youth and stuff like that.
Because you guys, all of us kind of grew up together.
Yeah, especially being good friends with your daughter, and then he was best friends with your son. Yep. So we kind of crossed paths and everything, but we didn't think anything of each other. So I would have to say 2019 is when he actually was we started hanging out, and even then we didn't like each other. Yeah, we actually hated each other. Yeah, and so because he would it was weird because we would talk about our boyfriend or girlfriend at the time, and just be I hate this about them, or this is going wrong, or we would just talk to each other about stuff. But I think for a whole year we literally just were not into each other. We didn't like each other, and so
just still crossing paths. So what year? That not 2019.
Yeah 2019 was when we started in 2019, and then when I was around 21 is when we
How old are you now?
30.
2019 is only 3 years ago, dear.
Oh, sorry. 2015.
2015. I'm wait a minute. Wait, no. You've been married longer than that.
Sorry.
2019, that was when COVID began.
Because 2013 I went to college, came back. 2014 is when we started crossing paths and doing all that. Okay. And then, sorry.
Now we're on. Okay. Now my timelines are lining up.
So I'm still in closer to the 19. 2014 is when we started actually talking and actually getting together stuff. Because we also went through that phase where we were no, we don't like each other. Yeah. Nah.
And it was interesting because there was a lot of transition in all of our lives. Because of how closely knit our families are. Yeah. We were going through a thing where we had launched the church. Then Dad had asked us to come back. That was around 2009. I think 2010 I began taking over for him, but it wasn't until 2011 I don't think that I actually took over. Yeah. And so we are all transitioning youth, church planting, coming back.
Yeah, because when y'all moved back to Cliffdale, I was in college up in Raleigh.
But didn't you launch Pursuit with us though? Weren't you a part of that?
I was launching Pursuit, and then I went to college.
Yeah. So. And I know Jamel came with us, and his mom, and although they all came with us and did that, and then of course came back with us too.
Yeah.
What year did he? So, what did that timeline look like for you? Because you guys were married before he went in, right?
Yes.
And so, what did that look like?
Actually, I'm go back a little because I actually befriended his mom and his sister before I even befriended him.
Yeah.
I actually worked for Deanna for 2 years before.
Really?
Yeah. I worked for her at the daycare and with Miss Sue and all them.
Yep.
So I worked for her for 2 years.
Yep.
She it's funny because I was kind of like Ruth and Boaz. So I worked for her for 2 years, and then if you ask both of us, we cannot pinpoint the time where we just started hanging out.
Yeah. And I remember, because again, as an observer, both of you being spiritual children of mine and loving you, I couldn't pinpoint it. I know at some point you began just hanging out.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, let's hang. But it was like your mom would come to work and they'd be like, oh yeah, they're just hanging out. And I just remember that beginning at some point.
Yeah, we even him and I if it's come up many times, when was it, the pinpoint day, month.
When I would ask about it, I'd be like, your mom again would come to work and they're hanging out, and I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, no, they're just friends. I mean, and she'd be, they are just, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
And that's one of the beautiful things about your story that I absolutely love is the establishment of friendship. I mean, solid friendship, without the anticipation of romantic, relationship. And so, and again, as an observer, I don't know when or how it evolved, but along the timeline, I see, just
it was kind of crazy, and then at the end, it was kind of fast. We started out, he would just come over and play games with me and my mom and my dad, and that's all we were doing. We would watch movies together, and then how rumors go around. They were like, "Oh, is stuff going on?"
Yeah, what's going on?
No, nothing's going on. We're just chilling. It's platonic.
Just friendship. And even I would ask, when I talked to Boo about it, she'd be like, "Dad, they're just friends." And, okay, all right.
And so and then it moved into. He asked my dad actually if he could start dating me. And it's still an ongoing joke because he was like, I'll give you some calves. I don't have them right now, but I'll give you some calves and some goats for her and stuff like that. And so...
is your dad still expecting his calves and goats?
He's made him build a deck and build a fence. So hopefully that.
As a dad, I don't know.
It doesn't equal.
When did you guys get married? What year did you guys get married?
2015.
Okay, 2015. He goes into the military shortly after that.
Yeah.
And so he's been in 7 years now. Yep. Tell me about, so when he went in, where was his first duty station? And, what was that, because you're young. You guys are still so young at that point. What were some of the challenges you faced being married to the military?
So he went in December of 2015. Then he had to do boot camp for I think it was 7 weeks. And then he went to Wichita Falls, Texas.
Yep.
And that was his first duty station.
Yeah.
It was his training base because he had to get his PLEPs done and stuff like that. And so I actually got to move with him there on orders because his thing was 7 months long. If it was any shorter than 7 months,
you wouldn't have been able to do it. Yeah.
So I hadn't been up with him up till this time.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wasn't supposed to go yet, but I was like, Mom, we're packing up this and we're going. I'm tired of not being with him. We're just going. And so he called me literally the day we're leaving. He was like, hey, when can you get here? I was like, I'm already on my way. He's like, I don't have a house for you. And I was like, oh, we'll figure something else.
We'll work it out. I'll find one.
And so, which that was actually crazy because then I had to I was living with my parents and then I get thrown into living in an apartment complex by myself.
Yes.
Because he can't live with me. Yeah. Because he has to go to school.
Yeah. But no, he could visit on weekends, couldn't he?
Yeah, weekends. And
but
because
still,
he was
that's not
married.
the same. Yeah, you had I mean, what a culture shock, you know?
Yeah, and then I gotta, like, you know, pay bills and stuff like that.
Do all that adulting stuff.
Yeah, like, I had paid my phone bill. Like, that's not, like, it's not the same.
No,
like, your phone bill. But, yeah, and then I had to pay a freaking, you know,
a budget.
Apartment.
Yeah.
Like, I had to
water, electricity.
I had to buy my own food.
Yeah.
Like,
wow, what is going on?
I had to cook and then clean?
Yeah.
What?
Not living with mom and dad anymore?
Yeah.
What is going
on? And then so I moved there with my first dog, Bran. And so we stayed in the apartment complex. The apartment complex was really nice because, you know, you have to rent 6 months, you know? And at the time when we were trying to find an apartment complex, I was like, hey, do you rent month to month? And they're like, no. And so I found this one place that was actually desperate for, like, people to rent. And I was like, hey, you rent month to month? And they're like, yes.
Well,
yes, we
anything to get people to rent.
So we went there. It was like, it was so nice. Clubhouse, pool, like all of that. And they actually took me under their wings, the manager and all of them. And the staff there, it just made sure I was always okay.
That's cool, yeah.
And so we do the move. We get there. The night my mom and dad leave, and Katie, because she helped us move. Yeah. I think the night I find out I'm pregnant.
Oh. Mom, come back quick.
So yeah, I found out I was pregnant.
Wow.
So then now I'm pregnant and away from everyone.
Yes.
So now it's just a whole different ballgame.
Well, and I want to just pause for just 1 second because, I mean, guys who are joining us, just a splash of cold water. You have a young lady, right, raised in the military, marries an individual. He goes into the military, gets dropped off for you, literally in a place that could be like in the middle of nowhere.
It literally was.
You know, I mean, just like days, not hours away from home, and then, well, boosh, hey, you're pregnant, you know? Wow, culture shock. I mean, talk about just an eye-opening, mind-blowing, wow.
Yep.
So were you happy, excited, sad? I know scared.
We were like, so we kind of knew it was going to happen because being away from each other for 7 weeks.
It's, just saying.
And then we could see each other even just for an hour.
Yeah.
It only takes one.
Yep.
So we knew it was going to happen. And then, like, I wish I would have done it a different way, but I texted him. I was like, I'm pregnant. And he was like, and he just sent all the emojis, and he was so excited, which made me feel excited. And then he was like, don't tell anyone. I was like, cool, are you gonna answer all my questions I got? And he goes, never mind, tell them. So that was really cool too, because then I also like told them in text message, which is weird, like text message.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we have his whole 7 months. So now when we move to our new duty station, I'm 2 months from giving birth.
Yes, yeah. And having to reset up the household and establish things and move, you know. And was that when you were stationed to Minot?
Yep, we went to Minot, North Dakota.
Oh, bless your heart.
In August. August is when it starts snowing there. We had our first child in October. We got snowed in for a month. And we were not prepared. Like...
Not at all. I mean, that's just, that's, wow.
And not like, you know, a little bit of snow. Snow that covers your car.
Yeah, Minot, they don't do little snow.
No, 64 inches in that year. And I was like, I was like,
you were like, gosh. I love this place. No.
Yeah. I was like, no, I want out of here. So, but yeah, Minot was a whole different ball game. Yeah. Like each duty station you go to is like a whole different thing.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, he did his, I don't know, is it Kelly or where did he do his boot camp?
It was at
Lachlan.
Yeah,
in San Antonio.
Yep.
Which is a great, I mean, beautiful city.
Yep.
Then you move there to Wichita Falls,
which is the desert.
Which is right
of Texas.
The desert of Texas, and then his first duty station is Minot, which is
the tundra. Arctic tundra.
64 inches of snow, you know.
-40 before windshield.
I hate it. How long are you guys there for?
We were there for 3 years.
Wow.
And honestly, thank the Lord, because once you go there, especially as a family, you don't get out.
Really?
Like they are like locked there.
Yeah, it's like the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, and because like they also have like a suicide rate that's so high on single airmen that they put families there and they don't let them out because if you have a family around,
you got a support system, all that kind of stuff. Wow.
So yeah, but there was actually like it was really fun. Our first year there for Thanksgiving and Christmas, I was like, look, any single airman, any bring someone like I was like, just have them come over, we'll cook. We had a big feast,
and I remember even you started. I mean, really maturing in your personal salvation in Christianity because you got the break from your family, right? And then you're beginning Bible studies and again reaching out to other the needy people in your community. I say needy not in the sense of those who are hungry or starving or anything, but needy as in emotionally being able to bring people together, and that's really cool.
It's funny because like when I moved out there to Minot, I feel like that was my desert.
Yes.
That was when I was like, it was my pivot moment of, okay, I got to figure out me and I got to figure out God to me.
Yep. And that's one of the, again, as somebody who has had a measure of spiritual influence in your life, that's one of the hugest blessings for me is when an individual steps out and I'll say finds God for themselves, who God is going to be to them. And to see your level of spiritual maturity and growth, has been nothing short of a blessing for me. Not that I've had much influence in it in the past 7 years or so, but knowing that I did have influence before that and being able to now be more of an observer, a confidant too, somebody that you and Jamal can obviously always come to, but to see the level of maturity in both of you guys is just a huge blessing. So, in Minot for 3 years, at what point did you have your second pregnancy? Were you still in Minot?
Yes, we were in Minot a year. Athena was a year and a half, so a year and 6 months is when I actually had him. So a couple of months, because they're 16 months apart.
Yeah, okay.
They're like so close in age.
Yeah.
And so...
Well, you were living in Minot.
Yeah, 20...
Go figure.
2018 is when I had him.
Yeah.
So, and then, that was 2 kids in the winter was crazy. Like...
Bless your heart.
I remember this just one time that he had his little jacket on and he was eating a banana and we were going like, you have to push the like Walmart cart out in the sand, out in the
snow.
And I'm like pushing it. And he was like, oh, forget this jacket. He takes it off and then he's like, and he just starts freezing. I can't do anything because we're in the road. I'm like, you're going to have to suck it up for a second.
Did you have any, and I hope this is, but did you have any breakdown moments?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Oh, yes.
When you were just like, done.
After I got them in the car, them warmed up, after that situation, I called my dad and just crying. I was like, Dad, I want out of here. I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. And just like bawling my eyes out. And so, it was like actually then, and then from there out is like when I started not questioning my faith.
No,
just questioning what I knew about my faith.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And so it was kind of like crazy, like, because, with your mom and dad in this church and like, you're like, oh, like they wouldn't lead me astray. Yeah. Why should I question anything?
Yeah.
But I think like questioning was really good.
I agree.
Like
I absolutely agree.
It was really good because then I had to go go look up scripture. I couldn't just be like, hey, Josh, what's this mean?
And who is God to you? As Father, as King, as Lord. Who as Savior, who is He to you? And that again is so pivotal in an individual's life, because it's not enough that God be my God or your dad's God or your mom's God.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I'm kind of undergoing right now in my personal self. About 5 months ago, I did a sermon on being a safe place to land, and that kind of has evolved and grown into, us opening up our doors to a Haitian congregation, a Filipino AA. We're looking at all grief groups and, smart recovery, all this stuff, reaching out. And really, it's a time for me. I'm not discovering who God is. Well, obviously we continue to discover who God is, but I'm discovering who I am as a pastor, not just the pastor my dad raised me to be, but the pastor God's called me to be. And so it's just interesting how God just brings us and grows us up into that. Did you guys have your second baby in Minot, or had you already moved?
No, we had our second. Ezra was born in Minot.
Ezra was okay.
And then I got pregnant in 2019. And 2 months before I was going to give birth again, we moved to California.
Wow. So, yeah. The military knows how to time things just about perfectly.
Actually, it was like it was God, because like you can't get out of there. And my husband called me one day and he was like, "Hey, I can put in for this like special job in California." I was like, "Do it, like whatever." Like I was literally at the point like, if God wants us to do it, like we'll whatever. Like I was just like, I guess so broken that I was like, whatever. Yeah. And so he puts in for it. Calls me the next week from work. Is like, "Hey, we're moving." And I was like, "What?
Do what?
What?" I was like, "I'm pregnant," you know? And he goes, Yeah.
We should have known. We should have A, B to C. There you go.
Yep. And so 2 months before I had.
So let's break it down. So he does his basic in San Antonio, from San Antonio to Wichita Falls. In Wichita Falls, we find out we're pregnant with number one.
Yep.
We move to the backside of the Arctic, right?
Yeah.
And we're a couple months out from having baby number one. And then we have baby number two on the backside of the Arctic, and find out a couple months before baby number three that we're moving to California again. And moving from, again, just extreme climates, right?
Yeah.
Because here you are in Minot, and that is a frozen tundra back to the desert.
Yep.
Essentially, you know.
But what I find so weird is when we moved to North Dakota, that was my desert.
Yeah.
When we moved to California,
that's good.
That was my garden.
Yeah.
That was like where I flourished and like was amazing.
Yeah, and just growing up and all that. And how long have you guys been in Cali for?
Since 2020.
2020?
Yep, because we had Dariah a week before the pandemic.
Okay, there you go. Because I was going to ask, well, 2020 was when the pandemic kicked off, like in March or whatever. And so, you guys, there are always people who complain about California and its restrictions during the pandemic. How did that affect you guys?
Honestly, it didn't really affect us because we're on that small base, closed town.
Yep.
The only time when it did affect us is when they started closing the parks, and then that was something. But me and my friend were like, "Hey, let's just scoot the kids to the park real quick, and then we'll run."
We'll stay as long as they let us. I mean, once they tell us to leave, we'll leave. That's all.
And so, so that was crazy. And then so I had Jariah a week after I had Jariah, because my mom normally stays at least 3 weeks with me. They started closing California. My mom and my sister had to get out.
Yeah. Wow, that's right.
So I have a week-old baby. My mom and sister have to get out, and my husband has to go back to work. And now I got 3 kids that I'm trying to figure out life with in a new town.
3 kids, all under the age of 10. All
under the age of 5.
I was going to say, how old was Athena at the time? Yeah, and
4.
So you're all under babies. I mean, literally
babies.
Still babies.
Yep.
Wow.
So
again, just a culture shock on you. It's like, okay, here you go. And having to just push through and dig in and do what you got to do. What would you say? Abraham's been in 6-7 years, right?
7 in December.
7 in December. What has been the most challenging part of being married to an individual in the military?
Probably.
If you could earmark, I don't know if you can. Can you just earmark one thing?
Probably it's probably gonna sound crazy, but it's not his hours. Because sometimes he can work from 11 at night to 7 in the morning.
Yeah. Or
3 p.m. to 11 p.m., which is what he's on now. Or in the mornings from 7 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be hey, we need you now, and you can't say no.
Yeah.
If you're a civilian, you'd be like, I'm with family.
Yeah.
You're in the military, they own you first.
Yep.
And so he'll just put the phone down and be like,
babe, I gotta go.
And I'm like, we were about to go to the store.
Yeah. We were in the middle of a movie.
Yeah.
This is date night. What's going on?
And it doesn't matter the hours, because his planes like 24 hours.
Yep.
3 a.m. Hey, we need you.
And
babe,
you gotta go. Yeah.
I gotta go. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Why are you going?
Yeah, it's 3 a.m.
What pilot is flying?
Yeah, right. Wow. Great story. And so that's the most challenging. Anybody who's watching today, what would you say is the most rewarding part of it? I mean, you've sacrificed, you've given your husband, you've had your babies, you've lived in frozen tundra and deserts and all these things. What has been the most, you can say, these things have been just incredibly rewarding?
I would have to say, like, finding myself outside of my hometown.
Yep.
Meeting new people that just have a different thought process than I do. And then, like, trying to understand them while they're trying to understand me. Let's
talk, because we don't have much more time. But so, okay, we know political mumbo jumbo, right, left, Republican, Democrat. You go from conservative Texas, right, conservative Wichita Falls, conservative Minot, South Dakota, now very liberal, very progressive California. I can't. I mean, I can only imagine how those. A little bit absorbed because you're in the military and on base, but how those individuals' mindset. Let me give you an example. So in Fayetteville, it's rare that you see a pro-Trump, Republican, I don't like Biden thing here in Fayetteville. You go down to Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle specifically, and you see Trump paraphernalia everywhere and how we hate Biden, and you see a very clear line. And it's interesting to me, the difference between here and there. And so for you, again, the mindset of Minot versus the mindset of LA. Yeah,
actually, it's kind of crazy because, like, I don't know, over in California, they're not just like Trump this or Biden that and stuff like that. They're more for the mayor. They there's signs like, make sure the mayor does this, make sure your council does this. Like they're more focused on their
which
their
they should
city.
Be. Here in Fayetteville, they're not. I mean, there is some push, but it's they really the and that's where news does what they do with propaganda, but they really propagate the federal side of it. Whereas I hadn't thought about LA.
They're more like who's in their office, not who's in like the White House. And it was like you said, you see Trump this, Biden that, and not there. You see, like, I forgot his name, but whoever the congressman is.
Gavin Newsom, something like that. Yeah.
But you're like, oh, make sure he doesn't get in. This person doesn't get in the office, or make sure that like they're centered on their city,
state,
like
city
the city and the state. And like that's literally all you don't see presidential signs.
Items. That's again, but that shows you the difference. In those places. We're going to have to go ahead and close down in just a second. Do you have anything to the girls out there, maybe girls who are looking at their man getting into the military, staying in the military? What kind of advice would you give to them?
Choose your friends wisely.
Good. Yes.
And find a community. Like each base is what you make it. Yeah. So make sure you find your community,
that's so
especially
good.
if you're going to the frozen tundra.
Yeah.
Like you have to have a community, or else you'll break down.
You'll break. Yeah. You will. I think even if you have a community, you'll break down, but you'll have a community to lean on, which is so important. All right, guys. Well, that's about all the time. Thank you, Meagan. You got a great story, kid. I mean, it's a great story. Thanks for joining us today. And listen, as always, we ask that you like, share, and of course, subscribe if you're enjoying these. And that's about it. So go out there and live life with all you've got.